They branded me a failure, but one day, my family's scorn dissolved into stunned silence, and every eye in the room locked on me. I sat in the shadowed back row of a Chicago courtroom, my pulse a quiet thrum against the ache of years spent fading under their judgment. My brother Nathan's trial roared like a Lake Michigan storm, his pristine image as a cosmetic surgeon shattering with each whispered accusation of fraud. My mother, Ellen, sat ahead, twisting her pearl necklace, her face a mask of practiced poise. My father, Richard, muttered disgrace under his breath, a familiar jab meant for me. I'd learned to shrink, to let their words slide like rain off glass. The air crackled with tension, the crowd's murmurs a restless tide. I was here out of duty, not desire, just another moment where I didn't fit. A stranger's gaze, a man in a sharp suit, his eyes kind but curious, met mine briefly, sparking a flicker of warmth I hadn't expected. Then the judge's voice sliced through, sharp as a winter wind. "One moment," she said, her stare pinning me. "You're Claire Bennett?" The courtroom froze. My mother's necklace slipped through her fingers. My father's muttering stopped cold. Nathan's polished facade faltered, his eyes darting to me. "The governor of Illinois?" the judge asked, her tone laced with awe. A collective gasp erupted. Ellen's lips parted, soundless. The silence that followed pulsed with questions they couldn't voice. How had I, the daughter they'd dismissed, claimed a power they never saw coming? That stranger's gaze lingered, a quiet anchor in the chaos. To understand why this moment broke them, you need my story, a tale for every woman who's felt invisible, yet found the spark to rise. Listen, because it might ignite your own. Chicago's autumn chill seeped through the cracked window of my Pilsen apartment, the distant hum of the L train weaving into my thoughts. Years of being deemed the family's disappointment had etched a quiet resolve in me, a defiance that bloomed in the margins of my life. As a social worker, I spent my days navigating the city's forgotten corners, shelters, halfway houses, lives teetering on the edge. Each person I helped was a brick in the wall I built against my parents' scorn, a testament to a purpose they refused to see. Richard and Ellen, my parents, had long crowned my brother, Nathan, their shining beacon. His cosmetic surgery clinics, glittering along Michigan Avenue, were their pride, a symbol of success they paraded at every turn. My choice to serve others was, to them, a betrayal of their ambitions, a mark of shame. One sweltering August evening, their Lakeview brownstone buzzed with the clamor of a family reunion, a gathering I'd steeled myself to attend, hoping for a scrap of warmth. The air was thick with perfume and boasts, cousins and aunts swirling in a dance of small talk. Ellen, her silver earrings catching the chandelier's glow, leaned toward Uncle Henry. "Claire's such a pity," she murmured, her voice sharp as a shard of glass. The words landed like a slap, though the room kept its rhythm. Richard, swirling bourbon in his glass, gave a curt nod, his eyes avoiding mine. Nathan, ever the charmer in his tailored blazer, offered a smirk that masked his disdain. Shame coiled in my chest, hot and heavy, yet I stood rooted, a silent figure in their tableau of triumphs. All I'd ever craved was a glimpse of their pride, a moment where I wasn't the shadow to Nathan's light. Slipping onto the porch, the city's pulse steadied my trembling hands. Lake Michigan's breeze carried a whisper of freedom, a reminder that I'd built a life beyond their judgment. My work had saved lives. Maria, a single mother who'd found housing. Jamal, a teen who'd escaped the streets. These were my victories, invisible to my family, but vivid in my heart. Yet the sting of Ellen's words lingered, a wound that refused to heal. Days later, a new ritual began: Sunday dinners at my parents' home, a tradition I joined out of duty. Each week, the table groaned with Ellen's roasts and Richard's lectures on ambition. Nathan's latest triumphs, another clinic, a magazine feature, dominated the conversation, while my presence felt like an afterthought. One evening, as I passed the mashed potatoes, Richard's voice turned cold. "Claire, when will you do something worth talking about?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as Ellen's fork clinked against her plate. The rejection wasn't new, but it cut deeper each time, a blade honed by repetition. Yet something stirred within, a spark of rebellion, fanned by the faces of those I'd helped. My apartment, cluttered with case files and secondhand books, became my sanctuary. Late nights poring over policy briefs, I dreamed of systemic change, better welfare, fairer housing, ideas that felt bigger than my family's small world. A colleague, Sarah, noticed my fire. "You're meant for more, Claire," she said over coffee at a Loop diner, her words planting a seed I wasn't ready to name. Chicago's skyline, framed by my window, seemed to beckon. I'd always been the one who listened, who mended, who stayed silent. But the weight of my family's dismissal was shifting, giving way to a quiet strength. I began speaking up at work, proposing reforms that earned nods from supervisors. The city, with its grit and grace, mirrored my own transformation. Slow, steady climb towards something unyielding. One night, as rain lashed the streets, I found a flyer tucked in my mailbox, a call for community leaders to run for office. My heart raced at the thought, a mix of fear and thrill. Could I, the woman my family had written off, step into a spotlight they'd never imagined? The idea felt reckless, impossible, yet it took root, fueled by years of being unseen. Sarah's encouragement echoed in my mind, her belief a counterpoint to my parents' doubt. But as I stood on the cusp of this new path, a shadow loomed. My family's next move, cloaked in their usual veneer of superiority, was already in motion, one that would demand everything I'd fought to become. Winter's grip tightened over Chicago, the wind slicing through the Magnificent Mile as neon signs flickered against the dust. The city's restless energy mirrored the storm brewing within, a tempest fueled by months of standing taller despite my family's efforts to diminish me. My work at the community center had grown bolder. Policy proposals now circulated among city council members, earning whispers of respect. Yet the shadow of Nathan's world, once untouchable, was about to collide with mine in a way I never foresaw. A breaking news alert shattered the quiet of a late January evening. Nathan, the golden son, faced charges of tax fraud. His empire splashed across Chicago Tribune headlines. The scandal rippled through the city, his polished image unraveling in court filings and tabloid exposés. At the community center, my group buzzed with the news, their sidelong glances a mix of curiosity and pity. Lena, ever direct, squeezed my arm. "You okay? That's your brother." Her concern was a lifeline, but the weight of my family's chaos pressed harder. Ellen's call came at dawn, her voice brittle over the phone. "You need to come to Lakeview, now." The brownstone's warmth did little to soften the chill of her summons. Richard stood by the fireplace, his jaw set like stone. "Nathan's in trouble," Ellen began, her eyes red-rimmed. "We need your savings, every cent, to cover his legal fees." The demand landed like a blow, their expectation clear. My life's work, my security, was theirs to claim. "You owe this family," Richard added, his tone a blade honed by years of disdain. Shock gave way to a surge of defiance. "Nathan made his choices," I said, voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "He faces the consequences, not me." Ellen's sob broke the silence, her accusation sharp. "You're ungrateful, Claire, heartless." Richard's eyes narrowed, his words a final cut. "Don't expect to be part of this family if you walk away." The threat hung heavy, a door slamming shut on the ties I'd clung to. Leaving their home, the city's icy streets gleamed under streetlights, reflecting a clarity I hadn't known I possessed. For the first time, saying no felt like shedding chains. At a West Loop cafe, Councilwoman Diaz listened as I poured out the confrontation, her nod firm. "You're stronger than they know," she said, her confidence a spark to my resolve. My reform proposals were gaining traction, and a local radio host invited me to speak, amplifying my voice in ways my family couldn't silence. Nights at my Pilsen apartment grew electric with purpose. I drafted speeches, met with activists, and felt the city's pulse align with my own. Sarah, my colleague, joined me at rallies, her laughter a reminder of bonds built on trust, not obligation. One evening, a stranger at a forum, a journalist named Mark, asked probing questions about my vision, his warm gaze lingering. The fleeting connection started something unfamiliar, a hint of possibility beyond the fight. Chicago's skyline, framed by frost-laced windows, stood as a testament to endurance. The flyer for community leaders had led to a campaign team forming around me. Whispers of a gubernatorial run no longer a dream, but a plan. Lena and my group cheered each step, their faith a counterpoint to my family's rejection. Yet, as I carved this new path, a deeper wound festered, one my family's next act would rip open, threatening to undo everything I'd built. Spring's tentative warmth softened Chicago's edges, the cherry blossoms along Grant Park blooming like a quiet promise. Months of defiance had forged a new path, my campaign for governor gaining momentum, my voice resonating in packed town halls. The sting of my family's rejection, once a constant ache, had fueled a fire to reshape Illinois' welfare system. Yet, as Nathan's trial loomed, the past threatened to unravel the future I dared to build. Spring's tentative warmth softened Chicago's edges, the cherry blossoms along Grant Park blooming like a quiet promise. Months of defiance had forged a new path, my campaign for governor gaining momentum, my voice resonating in packed town halls. The sting of my family's rejection, once a constant ache, had fueled a fire to reshape Illinois' welfare system. Yet, as Nathan's trial loomed, the past threatened to unravel the future I dared to build. The courtroom in the Dirksen Federal Building buzzed with anticipation, its marble halls echoing with the weight of justice. Settling into a back row seat, I braced for the spectacle of Nathan's downfall. His fraud case had gripped the city, headlines dissecting his gilded life. Ellen sat rigid, her silk scarf a frail armor. Richard's clenched fists betrayed his unease. The gallery whispered, but a familiar face, Mark, the journalist from the forum, offered a nod, his steady gaze a fleeting anchor amid the chaos. Proceedings dragged until the judge, a woman with a commanding presence, paused mid-sentence. Her eyes scanned the room, then fixed on me. "Claire Bennett?" she asked, voice sharp with recognition. The air stilled, every head turning. The new governor of Illinois? A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Ellen's scarf slipped. Richard's jaw slackened. Nathan, in his pristine suit, froze, his confidence crumbling. The room erupted in murmurs, cameras flashing as reporters scrambled. Memory surged like a tide, pulling me back to the campaign's unseen battles. Nights spent strategizing in a cluttered Logan Square office, ignoring anonymous letters, vicious typed threats, urging me to withdraw.
One, in Ellen's unmistakable script, had cut deepest. "You'll shame us further." Yet each barb had sharpened my resolve, transforming pain into purpose. Volunteers, inspired by my platform, had rallied. Voters, moved by my story, had carried me to victory. The courtroom's chaos faded as I met the judge's gaze, my spine straightening. Years of being unseen had led to this, a moment where my family's dismissal was dwarfed by my truth. Mark's pen scratched furiously, his eyes alight with respect. Lena's words from the community center echoed, "You're unstoppable." The realization hit. I'd turned their scorn into a legacy, their doubt into a mandate. Ellen's face, pale with shock, betrayed a flicker of regret. Richard's silence spoke louder than his past insults. Nathan's glance, stripped of arrogance, held something new, fear, perhaps, or awe. The gallery's frenzy grew, voices clashing like a storm. My campaign manager, Javier, texted from the back, "This is your moment. Own it." The weight of their stares, once crushing, now felt like a challenge I was ready to meet. Chicago's pulse thrummed beyond the courtroom walls, its resilience a mirror to my own. The election had been a quiet revolution, built on speeches in church basements and rallies under the bean. Councilwoman Diaz had mentored me through late-night strategy sessions, her belief unwavering. Sarah had designed flyers, her laughter a constant lift. This victory wasn't just mine. It belonged to every woman who'd ever been told she wasn't enough. Yet, as I stood on this precipice, a new tension coiled. The courtroom's spotlight illuminated my triumph, but my family's stunned silence hid a reckoning. Their next move, born of desperation or pride, is already taking shape, a storm that would test the very foundation of my rise. Summer's heat draped Chicago in a restless haze, the skyline shimmering beyond the Dirksen Federal Building's windows. The courtroom, now a crucible of consequence, pulsed with the weight of Nathan's trial reaching its zenith. My governorship, revealed in that shattering moment, had shifted the air. Every glance, every whisper, now carried the gravity of my new reality. I sat poised, no longer shrinking, my heart a steady drum against the storm of scrutiny. Camera lenses glinted like predators' eyes, reporters jostling in the gallery as the judge's gavel fell. Nathan's defense faltered, his once charming veneer cracking under cross-examination. Ellen, her hands knotted in her lap, stared ahead, the lines of her face etched with disbelief. Richard's rigid posture betrayed a man grappling with a world upended. The crowd's murmur swelled, a tide of curiosity and judgment. But Mark's quiet presence in the press row, his notepad steady, his eyes warm, offered a tether to calm. The judge's voice cut through, announcing a recess. Chaos erupted, microphones thrust forward, voices clamoring. "Governor Bennett, a statement." My campaign manager, Javier, signaled from the aisle, his nod urging confidence. Rising, I faced the throng, my voice clear. Justice will speak today, not politics. The words, simple but firm, silenced the frenzy for a breath. Ellen's gaze met mine, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Claire, why didn't you tell us?" she whispered, voice fragile, as if seeing me for the first time. Nathan, escorted past, faltered, his polished facade gone. "You?" he stammered, the single word heavy with awe and resentment. Richard remained mute, his silence a wall, but his trembling hands spoke of a pride too stubborn to voice. The gallery's energy shifted, whispers turning to admiration. Lena's text lit my phone. "You're rewriting their story."
The truth settled deep. I'd outgrown their shadow, my strength a beacon they could no longer ignore. Stepping toward the exit, the courtroom's clamor faded behind me. Chicago's streets beckoned, alive with honks and heat, a city that had embraced my vision. Councilwoman Diaz's mentorship had shaped my resolve. Sarah's tireless support had fueled my campaign. This moment wasn't just a reckoning with my family. It was a declaration to every woman who'd felt dismissed, a vow that their voices mattered. Mark caught up, his question soft. How does it feel to change the narrative? His belief mirrored my own, a spark of connection in the tumult. The corridor's cool air steadied my breath, but Ellen's broken whisper lingered, a crack in the armor of her judgment. Richard's silence, Nathan's shock, they were fragments of a past I'd transcended. Javier joined me, his grin fierce. The world's watching, Governor. The title, once a surprise, now fit like armor. Beyond the building, Grant Park's greenery hinted at new beginnings, a canvas for the reforms I'd sworn to champion. Yet, as I crossed the threshold, a shadow flickered. The media spotlight, my family's unraveling pride, they were only the beginning. A deeper challenge, sharp and unyielding, waited just beyond this victory, ready to test the fire I'd claimed. Autumn's golden light bathed Chicago's Millennium Park, the cloud gate reflecting a crowd of thousands gathered for my inauguration as governor. The weight of the courtroom's revelation had reshaped the city's pulse, my name now synonymous with defiance and hope. Standing at the podium, the wind carrying whispers of change, I prepared to lay bare the truth that had forged me, a truth my family could no longer deny. The microphone hummed, amplifying my voice across the plaza. I stand here because of the pain I carried, I began, each word deliberate, raw. My family called me a failure, sent letters to stop my campaign, told me I'd never be enough. The crowd stilled, faces rapt, mothers, daughters, women who knew that ache. Ellen and Richard watched from a televised broadcast in their Lakeview home, their expressions unreadable. Nathan, awaiting sentencing, saw it from a detention center screen. My story, our story, unfolded. The reunion sting, the gala's exclusion, the demand for my savings. But pain can build, not break, I declared, voice rising. We rise when we choose ourselves. Cheers erupted, a wave of affirmation. Social media ignited. Hashtag no more toxic parents trending as tweets poured in, women sharing their own stories of breaking free. A Chicago Sun-Times op-ed, penned overnight, decried familial cruelty. Its headline, Bennett's Truth Shakes Illinois, circulating widely. Mark, now a familiar face at my events, scribbled notes from the press line, his smile a quiet anchor. Javier, by my side, whispered, "You've started a movement." The air crackled with possibility, the city's heartbeat syncing with mine. Back in Lakeview, Ellen's phone buzzed with messages, friends, neighbors, even distant cousins. Their words sharp with criticism. "How could you?" one read. Richard stared at the TV, his bourbon untouched, the weight of public scorn sinking in. A neighbor's email, blunt and scathing, pushed Ellen to tears. "You had a daughter who changed the world, and you tried to stop her." Their fortress of pride crumbled, doubt seeping through the cracks. For the first time, they questioned not me, but themselves. Beyond the park, a rally formed along Michigan Avenue, hundreds marching with signs, "We are enough." Lena led a chant, her voice fierce, her story now intertwined with mine. Sarah, filming for a grassroots documentary, captured the swell of solidarity.
Councilwoman Diaz, watching from a nearby stage, nodded approval, her mentorship a steady guide. This wasn't just my victory, it was theirs, a testament to every woman who defied dismissal to claim her place. The sun dipped, casting long shadows over the crowd. My speech ended with a vow. Illinois will be a state where no one is invisible. Applause thundered, but a quieter moment lingered. Mark's question from the courtroom about changing the narrative now answered in the faces before me. The rally's energy spilled into the streets, Chicago alive with a new reckoning. Women I'd never met approached, their stories echoing mine, their gratitude a balm to old wounds. Ellen and Richard, isolated in their home, faced a choice. The world's judgment, amplified by my words, pressed against their silence. A local news channel replayed my speech, each airing chipping away at their denial. The marchers' chants reached their windows, a chorus they couldn't ignore. Their next step, whether to double down or yield, remained unwritten, but the pressure of a city awakened bore down. As night fell, the park emptied, but the movement grew. My team planned next steps in a loop office, Javier mapping out policy reforms, Sarah editing rally footage. The weight of leadership settled, exhilarating yet daunting. Chicago's lights glittered, a reminder of the work ahead. Yet beneath the triumph, a new current stirred, a challenge not from my family, but from within the system I'd sworn to change, poised to test my resolve in ways I couldn't yet see. Summer's radiance swept through Illinois, the prairies beyond Springfield glowing with a quiet vitality. My governorship, now a symbol of resilience, had sparked a movement that reached beyond state lines, inspiring women to reclaim their voices. The Capitol's chambers thrummed with progress. New laws for affordable housing and expanded mental health services signed into existence. Yet the ripple of my family's public apology lingered, a milestone that anchored my journey while opening doors to broader change. A handwritten note arrived, its envelope worn from travel. Inside, a woman named Tasha from Peoria shared her story. A daughter once silenced by her parents' expectations, now pursuing a law degree after hearing my inauguration speech. "You showed me I could be enough," she wrote, her words a spark that joined countless others. Messages from across the country, taped to my office walls, formed a mosaic of courage, each one proof that pain could forge a path to purpose.
Chicago's lakefront shimmered during a keynote at Navy Pier, where I addressed a summit for women's empowerment. Proud, vibrant, and diverse included familiar allies. Lena, now leading a statewide network of support groups. Sarah, whose documentary had premiered nationally. Mark, his latest column praising my reforms, stood at the edge, his thoughtful gaze a quiet constant. "Your story's reshaping the nation," he said later, his words echoing Councilwoman Diaz's guidance, which still steadied my course. In Springfield, late-night strategy sessions filled the governor's mansion. Javier, my chief of staff, tackled opposition to our education funding bill with fierce precision, his loyalty a cornerstone. A new program, inspired by Tasha's note, launched grants for women escaping oppressive families, its rollout drawing applause from advocates. The grind of governance was relentless, but the faces of those I'd met, students, survivors, dreamers, lit the way forward. Ellen and Richard, their televised apology a turning point, had stepped back from public life. Their Lakeview home, once a stage for their pride, now hosted small, tentative gatherings. A friend's letter described Ellen teaching literacy at a community center, her demeanor gentler. Richard, attending my policy forums, listened without his old scorn. Their change, though gradual, was a bridge we might one day walk together, a sign of healing beyond my own story. Navy Pier's lights danced on the water, a reminder of the heights I'd reached. Women nationwide, connected through hashtag #NoMoreToxicParents, shared triumphs online. New careers, reconciled families, bold dreams. A Rockford rally, fervent and grassroots, saw hundreds vow to run for local office, their banners echoing my campaign's call, "Rise as you are." Lena's network trainees led workshops, their voices a growing chorus of strength. One quiet evening, Tasha's note lay open on my desk, her determination a mirror to my own. The deepest scars, I'd learned, could become the strongest foundations. Every policy, every letter, every rally proved no one was truly erased when they dared to stand. Diaz's wisdom, "Your truth fuels their fire," rang clear, a guide for the road ahead. Chicago's skyline, glimpsed during a policy conference, pulsed with promise. Sarah's next film, profiling women leaders, wove my story with others, its teaser sparking viral buzz. Mark's columns, now in major outlets, carried our message wider, his curiosity ever sharp. The challenges of leadership, budget clashes, vocal critics, loomed, but my team, from Javier's resolve to Lena's passion, held firm. Leaving the Capitol, the evening air soft, a call took shape. Have you ever felt erased? How did you rise? Share your truth. You're meant to be seen. The words, for every woman listening, carried my journey's heart, urging them to claim their light, to stand unyielding, to know they are enough.